Hello there, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're watching, listening, viewing, experiencing the Bump Podcast. This is the podcast you're looking for. Thank you for joining us, and of course, may the 4th be with you, always.
Welcome everyone to the Bump Podcast. I'm your host Shamir, here with my co-host and beloved brother Nabil and somebody else.
Special guest. Yes. Hi everybody. Happy May the 4th. For those of you guys that don't know, today is Star Wars Day. I'm so excited. Day. It's a national day. It's on the calendar. It's legit. Look it up.
Oh yeah.
And a side day is Revenge of the 5th, which is tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your holiday. That's more for the Sith, for the bad guys.
It's a special feeling, Lord.
Is it here? Dumb and Dumb for all you guys who aren't movie fans out there. But thank you so much for joining us today, guys. We don't want to waste so much time with this introduction because we have our special guest waiting for us today. He is a legend in the voice acting industry. He's multi-talented. He voices famous characters from Star Wars The Clone Wars, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, Plo Koon, and a whole bunch of other characters in that show. He plays Johnny Test. If you ever watched Cartoon Network, he voiced that character there. I'm pretty sure it was on Cartoon Network. If not, it was on Nickelodeon, but now I forgot. Oh geez. Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, all the video games, including the movie that came out a few years ago. Fred Flintstone and a whole bunch of Fruity Pebbles commercials. What else? He's voice doubled Michael J. Fox from, of course, Back to the Future, as well as Doc Brown in that in those movie series. He's kind of voiced them in video games. He's also voiced doubled for Christopher Walken, which, I mean, wait till you guys see him. He's amazing. He's phenomenal. We got the pleasure of meeting him in 2011 at Star Wars Weekends, which was a Walt Disney World event that they used to have. That was in 2011. We met him our first year going, his first year hosting, and then got to see him all the way through till 2015 when the event was over. It was finished. That was when Disney bought the rights to Star Wars from George Lucas, and then everything changed. And now we have Galaxy's Edge and what have you. We followed him and kept in contact ever since we met him back in 2011. He's kind of like my unofficial acting mentor. He doesn't know this, but I've just been following his work and admiring it for many, many years. And now we have him on today.
We have him on the podcast.
This is really exciting.
Yeah.
We're really happy and thankful that he is our first guest. So let's not waste any more time. Without further ado, we introduce to you guys James Arnold Taylor.
Whoa.
Let's go.
Hello there. See, that's what you need to hear, right? That's got to be... I have to always wait. I can't say anything until I can then say hello there, because that's what everybody wants. So, yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you. Now I'll answer your question, but I thought at least I'll give you the hello there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, we just want to thank you first and foremost just for being our first guest here on Bump Podcast. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on with us.
Well, the honor is all mine. We go back a long way.
2011 is when we met at Star Wars Weekends.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness. I didn't have as much gray in my beard. I wasn't as much old Ben as I am now.
You still look fantastic for your age. Now it's the wisdom that you got going on, you know?
Sure. I'll tell myself that.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions here for you. Of course, the purpose, the main goal that we have here on Bump Podcast, right? Bump meaning building up my personality. What we try to focus on is real life experiences, challenges that we face, and how we handle it in order to get to, whatever dream or purpose or goal, life goals, whatever it might be, how we get there through the trials and tribulations. And that's basically the gist of what we do here. So that way other people can feel inspired and motivated to be able to also take a leap of faith even when things really don't seem like it can go their way or what have you. Of course, we integrate religion. We were both raised to believe in Christ, and we've gone to church our whole lives. So God is absolutely foremost in our life, but we know that some audience members are not. And you're familiar with this because you talk about that on your own podcast, which we'll get to in a little while as well. So my first question for you, good sir, is I would like for you to start with us from the very beginning, right? And correct me if I'm wrong about certain things, but you grew up in a tough household, in a tough home. You didn't have your parents and all that stuff. So, allow us to get inside your brain a little bit and tell us how that whole experience kind of shaped you into who you are today.
Well, certainly no different than many people that have grown up in households that were not the standard, mom and dad and white picket fence and all of that. I grew up in a kind of a tumultuous time, in the 70s and 80s. And then also just with a single mom raising 3 kids and this stepdad that was a bit abusive to my mother as well as to myself and such. But and then off and on relationships there. So it was kind of that classic unhappy childhood. It was. The movies and the TV and stuff was more of my babysitter and raised me more. I was what they kind of call a latchkey kid because of that lifestyle. But, you come to find everybody has their own journeys in that. And so I certainly found the Lord was always kind of knocking on my door. And it wasn't until I was a teenager and started dating my wife that I really came to full fruition of understanding what that was looking like and what it would mean. Obviously, that's an entire lifetime of trying to discover your walk with God and what it looks like and what it means. But that was the beginning of it. There was in my late teens.
So from your late teens is kind of like that first moment where you had that encounter with Christ and you're just like, oh, okay, this is the kind of lifestyle I want to walk, and whatever bad stuff that had happened to me prior, I'm going to use that in order to be able to mold me and to elevate me to where I want to go in life.
Yeah, I would say that that's fair. I think he was always there. He was always guiding me and protecting me, certainly. And I see that now throughout my adult life, how he was there even when he wasn't there technically. He was there. I wasn't there. My family wasn't there. So people around me weren't there. But he was always there, as he always is. As he is with every single one of us. We are all always with him if we choose to see him, take his hand, open the door where he's knocking. And so, it was in my early 20s when I finally then officially, as we say, in kind of Christian speak, gave my life to Christ when I was 22. And so, so that was the beginning of it all.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
James, did you ever, going through these trials and tribulations, did you ever have a moment where you wanted to lean maybe towards negative things like alcohol or any substances that... did you feel like your life was just a general, like you were going through these situations, but you were still, and did you still have a positive mindset towards things?
Yeah. I think there was always this sense that the Lord was there guiding me, even though I didn't really know who he was. I knew the name of Jesus somewhere along the line, very early on when I was, 4 or 5 years old. We had gone to a church service somewhere and went to Sunday school, and the Sunday school teacher said, just pray to Jesus, and my mom was raised Catholic. And so she was like a lot of folks that sometimes they walk away from the church or what have you. She got more into kind of New Age religion and such, but there was a basis of Jesus is God. And so it was taught somewhere along the line, but it was just very fuzzy. The picture was, as it says in scripture, for now we see in the mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. My mirror was quite dim. And so I wasn't really seeing or hearing him the way that I should until I, as I say, kind of opened that door. So, but even though he was still there guiding me and showing me the way, directing my path in a dark space, a lot of dark stuff around me, for sure. But I managed to maneuver it the best I could by his grace. So,
Amen. That's good.
Amen to that.
Hey, I realized I didn't turn on Obi-Wan here. Now, you guys know you know this here, you would recognize this, but that is, of course, that used to sit outside the Premier Theater at Disney Star Wars weekends where we would host the events there. And I knew we were in the last year of it when they sent that to me because I thought, oh, I guess that means we're not doing it anymore. But and then the lightsaber didn't glow. I put that one on. I put a Ultra Saber on there and connected it, and now it's plugged into the wall, and so I can do that. But this is, you'll see the hat is a Skywalker, and I put that on him when I'm doing sessions normally. So this is my recording booth, and this is where I do all my sessions. And the camera that I have usually it follows me around, and so when I'm doing my sessions, but it has facial recognition, so I have to put the cap. I have to put it over his face, otherwise the camera won't move from me. It'll just stay on Obi-Wan.
It's on the other Obi-Wan.
It's the beard. Yeah. The camera likes the beard.
That's awesome.
Exactly. So I just thought, I should set that up and explain it to you. So yeah, there you go. So sorry, I digress for a moment.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
James, I have another question. Now that you are spiritually mature in your faith, do you feel, even though through hardships, does your faith ever lack by any chance? Do you feel like maybe not question God, because I believe you might be very spiritually mature at this point in your life, but do you feel like sometimes you might lack your faith a little bit? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually talked about this, I think, a few weeks back in an episode of the podcast too, where I think, because somebody had asked the question, like, do you ever kind of question and whatever? And I said, yeah, daily. I think we all question daily whether or not we're walking with God, whether or not he's actually in control, whether or not he's there. And I think that's human. I think it's the beautiful and the sinful part of our nature is that we can certainly question and we can choose to walk away. The beautiful part is that he gives us free will to choose him. And that's the thing I always say, it's like, I would love nothing more than everybody to believe the way I believe and walk the way I walk. Not like because I'm perfect, but because I'm trying to walk with him and he's perfect. So I would love that. But the reality is that he gives each one of us free will to choose to either be with him or be away from him. And so whenever we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, as it were, as the saying goes, we can choose to be like not walking with him the right way. And then we start to get grumpy, or we start to get disgruntled, or we start to question things. And that's very normal. That's our sin nature in us. We can't escape that. The apostles struggled with that even. I mean, Peter denying Christ, it doesn't get any more powerful than that, right? Other than maybe Paul, who was persecuting Christians and then gets knocked off his horse and blinded, and then sees, oh, this Jesus guy was actually the real deal. But even still, he spent then most of his life, at the end of his life, in a prison cell. And so I'm sure he woke up some days going, man, God, really? Is this what you... So we are blessed to wake up every day with so much more than we could ever imagine. And yet we still get disgruntled. We still go, come on. We get bothered by the guy in traffic or the person that says something that puts us off, or just because things aren't going our way. So yeah, whatever it is, but we're human. And the beautiful part about it is that every day he goes, come here. And he gives us a hug and he goes, I know, but it's okay. And then you can choose each day to go, you're right, I'm sorry, or whoa, come on, and another thing, so we all wake up with that, at times. And so the best way to kind of go around it, or to get yourself off of it, I suppose, is to start going down what you're grateful for. And that's what I try to do. I try to just go, okay, what am I grateful for? So gratitude is a powerful tool.
Yes, 100%. I'd like for you, I know you've talked about this a lot of times in different interviews, your podcast, but I really want you to allow us in the audience to really get inside of your heart and your mind, as well as your lovely wife Allison's mental capacity and spiritual walk, during the moments of when you went through the whole inhaling the toxic black mold and how that was affecting your career, all the same time you were also adopting your daughter. Talk to us about that, please.
Oh, well, it was so back in 2005, February 13th, 2005 was the day I lost my voice after being exposed to black toxic mold. And I discovered it in our house. We had bought this house because it was going to be this dream house where we raise our daughter. And it ended up being quite the contrary. It was a money pit. It had everything that could go wrong. We had gas leaks where, by the grace of God, we didn't blow up. I mean, we had the gas company come over and go, "We don't know how you didn't blow up in this house." And they're like, "Thank God you weren't lighting, matches on the burner." We said, "We were. The power went out. We couldn't." They're like, "It is amazing that you didn't explode." So, angels watching over us for sure. And then we had this black mold growing in the walls due to shoddy construction where they had put nails in the pipes. So water was leaking into the walls for the first year of our time living in the house. And so that's when I discovered the mold. Was I ran my hand down a wall that I could tell had moisture in it. And my hand, it was so saturated, it fell right in. And so then I went and got a flashlight to look in the wall to see what was going on. And that's when I breathed in all the mold. They found 6 different types of mold in the wall, and they found all 6 in my bloodstream as well. One of them being black mold, Stachybotrys, which is the really deadly mold. And so the other ones are more like penicillin and such. They make you feel sick, like, am I getting a cold? But black mold is really very dangerous. And so when I breathed that in, it affected my immune system kind of instantly. And still to this day, 19 years later, I still have issues with my immune system due to it. But I watch my diet, I watch my exercise, I watch things and try to stay as healthy as I can. But I also know that, this life is a gift. It's another great reminder. God can use the really rough parts of our lives to show us that he's strength building us and turning us into stronger people if we are so willing to accept the challenges that he lays in front of us. And so I try to be willing. I'm not always the best example of that. I complain like the rest of us. I really do. I can be pretty crabby at times, but I also remember being very scared and thinking, okay, because I woke up and I couldn't speak. I had a chronic laryngitis. And so my voice was not what it used to be. And so I really had to figure out, what am I going to do? And so it was a lot of prayer, a lot of giving it up to God. And the crazy part about the whole story is, as you know, but for those of you that watching and listening don't know, is February 13th, 2005 is the day I went to the doctor. He said, "You got to stop talking. Your voice is shot," and all of this. And I prayed that day and I said, "Lord, please don't let this be the worst day of my life." And 6 months later, we got the paperwork for our daughter, who we were adopting from China at the time. And it turns out February 13th, 2005 was her birthday. So the same day that I said that prayer, thinking it was the worst day of my life, it was the best day of my life, because I became a father on that day. And I didn't know it until 6 months later. So God works in funny ways. And see, that's the other part. We think we've got it all figured out so many times. And his timing is so much different than ours. And he goes, "Boy, I'm going to bless you over here if you can hold on while you're right here." And so just hang on and we'll bring it together and a blessing will come. So for all of you watching or listening that are thinking, "Gosh, Lord, I don't know how much longer I can hold on," just hold on, because he's got a blessing for you. Just give it to him. Just give all of your thoughts and cares and worries and fears and even your anger, even your frustrations with him, even the parts that you want to yell at God. He can take it. He's the biggest, best dad you'll ever find, and he can absolutely take it all. So, yeah.
That's absolutely right.
That's the absolute truth. It's interesting how you said that you tend to complain a lot and whatnot, because Shamir here, he's reading a book right now that's super interesting about complaining. I mean, go ahead and elaborate.
It's called a Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll send it to you so you could check it out. It's actually over 15 million people around the world have already done the challenge. It's 21 days of complaint-free and gossip-free. It takes around anywhere from like 4 to 5 months to actually complete the 21 days consecutively. So it's definitely a hard task. It's a hard task.
It's a tough one.
And then you have to wear a wristband or a rubber band. And each time you complain and you have to restart that day, you have to switch the rubber band over to the other bracelet to the other wrist.
Yeah, I have heard of this. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, but it's a really good book, and
Yeah.
it has different motivational quotes and like even Bible scriptures in there.
Yes.
Because Will Bowen is a believer as well. So yeah, I'm trying to do that too, but it's very tough because you becoming aware and conscious of how much. Even the book says that you complain about 30 to 40 times in a day, on a daily basis, and you don't even know it. You subconsciously are just doing it. So it's I like to read a lot of mental health and self-awareness books and stuff like that. So that's the one I'm currently reading. I've put it on the podcast Instagram and all that stuff for other people to share. So it's definitely it's a journey.
That's awesome. Well, God bless you, my friend. It is amazing how easy it is. I was just reading this morning in the scriptures, Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branch. And if we are away from the vine, we can't grow. We will wither and die. So abide in him, in him and give all your worries and cares. And if you do, anything you ask, he will come to your aid. And I was thinking about it because I thought, how often are we not abiding? We are complaining, we're frustrated, whatever. And that's a tough one. For everybody, I think. Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of funny too, before I get to my next question, it's kind of funny how there's certain parallels between yourself and Obi-Wan. And I mentioned that because in conversations we've had, or even in your own podcast, you've mentioned how Obi-Wan is a firm believer of the Force, which is what kind of shapes him as his character, right? Like, he does everything by the book. Versus Anakin, he kind of does his own thing, and he's just kind of more of the rambunctious, rebellious kind of person. Right. So it's just interesting how like you and your most popular character have a firm belief system, and in your case in Christ, in his case in the Force. That's no coincidence there, my friend.
Oh yeah, it is interesting. I think that that's probably why a lot of Christians are. They gravitate towards Star Wars and such, is because it is a great display of good and evil and the fight with sin and the darkness within ourselves and trying to find the light and trying to be at the light, and that nobody's perfect and everybody falters at places. Obi-Wan, I always have said, is a true believer, though. He really is, and he's the one character that really, outside of Luke Skywalker, I would say, that does not slip or falter. It doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. But as far as holding to his religion, his belief system, his what keeps him going, he sticks to it, even to the fault of losing a brother, not even being able to kind of do what everybody else would say. Well, why didn't you kill him? Oh, I left him for dead. I'm sure he's gone. Oh, he survived? It's like, but Obi-Wan wasn't going to do that. So I like to think in some ways that I could think as level-headed as Obi-Wan during those moments when Darth Maul kills Qui-Gon, or during or the Duchess Satine, or any of these people. But Obi-Wan's, he's the real deal in that regard. He holds true to his belief system. So it's a great example, I think, for us Christians when we see those things and go, okay, yeah, it's because story is the whole thing. It's all, people have to remember, Star Wars is a story. The Bible is the truth, but Star Wars is a parallel story, as most stories that we watch in, whether it be the Avengers or what have you, they're all paralleling these stories that are mirroring the truth in our actual reality of a walk with Christ and a walk with God and a world that was created by him. So, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, they say. So everybody's imitating what the Bible already knew. So,
yeah, exactly right. So then I want you to kind of explain to us a little bit more about your book, Jat 365. That book was gifted to me several years ago, and I've gone through the book twice now. Every single time with new experiences and obviously facing different challenges. So my question, I guess, my understanding is that it came originally from different posts that you had made on your Twitter account, and then you decided to make it into a book and then a video series.
Yeah. So social media was really new. When Clone Wars came out, it was brand new. I remember Matt Lanter, Anakin, the chosen one, on his Twitter account and having all these things like, well, what's going on there? We had Facebook, and that was kind of still new, and that, but then moving to this thing called Twitter, and what was it, 140 characters, and it's like, okay, how do you affect the world in 140 characters? And what I noticed was a lot of people were affecting it in a very negative way. Most people on social media were complaining, as we're talking about, right? The way that people complain and they, gripe. And I thought, I'm going to challenge myself to do something positive on my social media every day. And so after doing that for as long as I could, I thought, you know what, I'm going to turn that into a book. So I took all the writings that I had done and all the posts that I had done and put those together, and then wrote some more of them and put them together in a book that kind of mirrors it's to look like a social media post and page. It's probably dated now by the time, because, these days, Facebook and Twitter are really kind of, very different. But it was, they've changed a lot, but it was still, so the thought was, I'm going to give you in a very small amount of, a small paragraph, something positive to contemplate and think about, to share, and to then put into practice for yourself. And so that's what the book Jat 365 was all about. 365 daily inspirations for the pursuit of your dreams, because everybody is trying to achieve something in this life. And so I wanted to give people that opportunity to have a handbook, and a journal. Because the cool thing about it is then you have the thing that is posted each day, and then you have a question, and then you answer the question, and you have a little spot to journal your own thoughts, and then you can share it with other people. But then you can look back on that and then see what you wrote, and then see, oh, I achieved that, or oh, I changed my thought pattern, and it's like doing the days of no complaining. Hopefully within that time you change a thought pattern, you get yourself able to see those things clearly. So yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for the book, because it was a God sent gift for me in a lot of ways. So I thank you for that.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
James, when have you had a situation where a person or people have attempted to try or just try your faith or your belief system, and how do you make it relatable to people that are like non-believers in the word or agnostic, or how do you deal with those situations?
Well, I think the best thing I can do is be an example. I don't see myself as, there's a lot of people that do missions work. They go to other countries. They or people that stand on a street corner, and preach the gospel. I'm not gifted that way. And so I figure the best thing I can do is to be myself, to be extremely grateful for what God has given me in this life, and to try and be an example however I can. And so that example means not being too frustrated. It's doing what Christ would say to do, to offer up the other cheek, to give the shirt off your own back, to offer a cup of cold water to those in need and to those that would be your enemy, to love your neighbor as yourself and to love your enemy, and find forgiveness. It doesn't mean you go back and just keep getting smacked down all the time. Sometimes you have to put walls up and protect yourself and your family and your loved ones and your own heart. But it does mean that the thought process of it is the same, in that I am going to love them, because no matter what they're saying or doing, that's our sin nature. That is not, and so sometimes we can't help ourselves. I think, we've all been in that position where we can't help ourselves. And so I try to then think, okay, it's the old expression, hate the sin, not the sinner. And it's a very kind of, old cliched thing, but it's very true. I do not like what this person's doing, but I understand they have their own stuff going on. There's reasons probably why they're feeling that way. Some of them can be in their control. Some of them could be out of their control. So what I'm going to choose to do is try to love them through it, and just try to be a light still to them. And even if it doesn't end up the best, I can honestly say I did my part in trying to just show the light and try to show the love of Christ. So that's hard to do. It's hard to do, but you just do your best.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's even tougher in the career that you're in. It's also a career that, because of your one man show, talking to myself, or as we knew it back at Star Wars Weekends, Obi-Wan and Beyond. It's inspired me to pursue the dream as well. And God's finally opened a door for me to be able to pursue this, even though it's still kind of a scary thing. You know, I've had the opportunity. I can't talk about it yet, but I've had the opportunity to be a part of a really exciting project for Netflix. And
that's great.
And again, it's all thanks to what you've done, and even you know. You gave me the opportunity to be on stage with you guys once. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, I do remember. Of course I remember.
Okay, good. You brought me up on stage, and you know, I recently saw the video again, and you guys had me voice Bosk. So you're like, oh, try to channel D. Bradley Baker, and I'm like, oh boy, those are some big shoes to fill. But I did it, and then the crowd gave us a standing ovation, and I got really choked up. But I was like trying to suck back all the tears. I'm like, I can't let this happen right now. Like, I need to chill out. So just know that everything that you've done has demonstrated to the world that Christ does live in you. You're walking it out. So it's an inspiration. That's what we're called to do as followers of Christ, is to be a light for Him, to bring others to Him. And so you're doing it, sir. You really are.
Well, that is incredibly kind of you to say, and I greatly appreciate that. If I've done anything, it is all grace and glory to God, not to me, but I appreciate that. That's the whole thing. You hope that you can be used in the right way, and you can put yourself aside. So I certainly try to, because, you know, I mean, certainly in Hollywood, there's nothing but ego, and there's plenty of that. And so I try to go, okay, put that ego aside and just... and embrace and love. I mean, you know, the good news is I'm a fan of great voice work. I'm a fan of cartoons. I'm a fan of story. So I, like anybody, when I see somebody else doing something, I get enraptured. I get enthralled in that. I want to see their performance. I'm enjoying that. So that's been the blessing God has given me, to not to where I sit there and go, oh, I could do that better. I watch it and go, look at that. Good for them. Isn't that awesome? So I think that that's really an important part of performing, is to really be able to, you know, like the greatest actors are the ones that you never really see them acting, right? Spencer Tracy, the very famous actor of a long since past time, would say, never let them catch you acting. And so the way that you do that is to enjoy what other people are doing while you're doing it. And you're involved in that, and you are rooting for them as much as you're rooting for yourself to be able to perform and to do your part.
That's really good, because it leads to one thing I was going to say. For example, like last time we saw you at MegaCon in Orlando, you could see the difference between the egos that a lot of the actors and famous people that go there have when you approach them, as to, you know, everybody that was with us. We had like a group of 10 people that went up to your table, and you.
Yeah, you had a great group. It was awesome. It was awesome.
It's just, you're a very approachable person.
You in the Clone Wars cast?
Yeah, for the most part.
Well, yeah, it's, we're so blessed. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. But you know, Ashley and Matt and Dee, I think we were all there, right? Dee was there too, wasn't he? Yeah, because Dee doesn't. So Ashley and Matt and I, the three of us, we have the same management company. Dee has a different management company, so sometimes he's with us, sometimes he's not. But the three of us travel as a trio, as we call it, and it's always fun, because I think we all realize we're still getting to hang out. You know, we loved Clone Wars so much. We loved playing and doing all of that. And the beauty of doing the shows now is we still get to kind of live in that moment when we get to see all of you, and then seeing all of our friends like yourselves from Star Wars Weekends. And, you know, it's very special. It'll always be a special time in all of our lives. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. I had another question. How do you take adversity and criticism from people, and how do you manage it on a daily basis? And the reason why I ask you this question, and when I came up with it, is that when I was doing my research on you this whole week, I was on your YouTube channel, and one of your videos that you have like over 5 million views, and you're doing all your voices, or like most of the stuff that you can do. And I usually, when I look at videos, I look at the comment box too. And there's a lot of awesome comments, people that are very supportive and very, the thumbs up people, like I call them. But then you have these negative comments that it's just like, I know there's trolls that are around just like they dedicate their lives to do these things. And, the enemy has his people and whatnot. So that's why I came up with the comment, because it's like, there's people, I'm not going to say what they said, but it's just as incredible how negative they can be to such a talented person like yourself. And that's why I came up with the question, like, how do you handle that?
Yeah. It's, well, I think the thing is people forget that we're all human and that we probably will read these things. I found a lot of times you diffuse things when there's been so many times where I will comment on a negative comment and the person will come back basically like, oh, I never thought you were actually going to read that. And then they're like, oh, you're great. No, it's great. And you're like, I'm a human being. It hurts when you say things. And so, on that particular video, I had turned all my comments off at one point on that one because they're when you have over 5 million views on something, you're going to have a lot of negative comments too, because it's people giving perspectives that they don't agree with, they don't agree with you. And then I just recently turned it all back on because I just thought, it is what it is. And then I thought I could delete those. Generally what I try to do is I try to delete any ones that have foul language, just because I just don't want that out there. I don't want, young people seeing it. But that particular video has so many, it would literally take me a long time to do it. And it would be very hard for me because I would have to see all of those negative comments. So, one of the ways I handle that is I don't look at those comments on that particular one that often, just because they are hurtful. It really does hurt. I never profess to be the best at any of what I do. I profess to be somebody that is incredibly blessed to have the opportunities and to have, a vocal range and an ear that I can do some things, but I never be like, and I'm the best, or I'm even near it. So it's tricky. It's hard when you see those negative things, but I always, I do try to engage when it's right in front of me. I do try to engage with it. And a lot of people say you shouldn't engage, but I have found that it diffuses it a lot, because most bullies or most people that are just saying rude things, I think they're hiding behind these, screens, and they don't realize. But also a lot of them have probably been very hurt by other people in their lives. And so if I can say, hey man, how's it going? I did read that, and that does kind of hurt my feelings. You might think about saying it this way. I'm a human being like you. And, some people are like, fine, I don't care. And then other people are like, oh, I never thought he'd read that. Oh, you're great. So, just all we can do is we can be honest with people, and we can be as gracious in our honesty as we can be. And when things hurt us, say, hey, that hurts. And if people want to engage more with more hurtful, then you have to make that choice to kind of go, okay, I'm just going to put a wall up here, and I'm sorry, but I try to do my best. That's why I try to do my best on it.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that show, that show is phenomenal. It was really cool to see it live at both Star Wars weekends and Celebration even more, because, as you know, of course, it's a longer show. And I think one of my favorite bits was you doing the whole Christopher Walken talking to Luke about the lightsaber thing. I love your impression as Christopher Walken. It's like the best impression of Christopher Walken I've ever heard in my life. It's great.
Well, you're very kind. Christopher Walken would say, Nabil, Shamir, you're amazing. Whoa, I got the bump podcast. It's crazy to be bumped. Am I being bumped from the show, or what is it? I don't know.
Not at all, Chris. Not at all.
I could use more cowbell.
I love it. So in that show, you show a wide range of different characters that you can voice, whether it's characters that you grew up with, or characters that you obviously do voiceover work for. whether it's TV shows, animated movies, video games, what have you. So what's the real purpose behind demonstrating what your talents are to a live audience rather than just letting your work speak for itself?
Oh, wow. That's a neat question, Bill. That I would say, the main reason was to show people, because I think most people's perception of voiceover is either they don't think about it ever, or they don't understand it, or they think it's just somebody, in a little closet talking funny voices and making a bunch of money. And it's far from that. It's the heart of character acting, because character actors are amazing. I love, great character actors on camera, but a character actor in voice can be anything. You can look like me and yet be, Andre the Giant, or Fred Flintstone, or, Johnny Test, 11 years old and totally awesome. So that's the beauty of being a character actor in voiceover. And I think what I love is, my wife calls it the I had no idea factor. And what she means by that is, she would sit there at the shows when I do it at Star Wars weekends, or when I perform it all over the world. I perform the show, and she says people come up to her afterwards and they say, "I had no idea. I had no idea voiceover was so difficult and fun and creative and all of that. I had no idea James could do all those voices. I had no idea one person could be so many people." And so it wasn't like, aren't I great? Or it wasn't even, hey, respect me. It was, look at the art of voiceover. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it a wonderful thing that doesn't really get any credit in Hollywood, unless it's a celebrity on a microphone in a studio? And so I thought it'd be wonderful to shine some light on what my heroes, which, people like Mel Blanc, Don Messick, Dawes Butler, and then Jim Cummings, Billy West, Jess Harnell, Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche, all these wonderfully talented people, Tress MacNeille, Gray Delisle, Tara Strong, all these amazing voice actors, Frank Welker. I could keep going. I will continue to keep going. All these amazing people and what they have the ability to do and have done and made a living, but most people have no idea who they are, but they absolutely know their voices. So I just thought it was a fun way to shine the light on that.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think you've done a phenomenal job. And even other people like Steve Bloom, who've offered, voiceover classes, which, the fan base has spoken, James. A lot of people have always said you need to do the same thing. A lot of people would sign up, including myself. I would sign up for that because your knowledge is insane.
Well, you're very kind. I'm not the greatest teacher in the world. I don't feel like I feel like, because one of the things people ask a lot is, well, how do you do that? And it's like, well, the grace of God. I can't explain it. I can't, there's no real way to teach somebody how to do a particular voice or a particular thing, or, acting is it's individual too. And so I don't ever feel like I was gifted with the ability, just like I don't feel like I was gifted as somebody to be a missionary. I don't feel like I've been gifted to be a teacher. I've taught classes, obviously, for years through different things, like the Screen Actors Guild has a place called the Voiceover Lab. And, once in a blue moon, I would teach a class and everybody really enjoyed it. But I never felt like I was really servicing people the best way, other than kind of showing them what I do. So when I learned what I did is I, started as in radio and stand-up comedy, and I watched other people do what they do, and then I copied it and I learned it. And then I would get reflective and go, okay, I know how to do this now. How can I make it my own? How can I make it, better, from what I'm doing, not what they're doing, but from what I'm doing? How can I get better at it? And yet I kind of feel like either people have that natural ability or they don't. And it's tricky because so many people want to be voice actors now. And if I'm being completely brutally honest, so many people in the world shouldn't be voice actors. People always go, oh, it's this small group in Hollywood that does all of these voices. And I go, well, there's a reason for that. And that is because even some of the greatest actors on the planet that have tried voiceover aren't very good at voiceover, just like, so, but you could say that of so many things. So many people shouldn't be teachers. So many people shouldn't be accountants. So many people shouldn't be, bricklayers or what have you, because it requires a skill. And if you have that, then you pursue it and you harness it and you do it. And hopefully God then blesses that. And I believe he does. But I guess what I'm getting at too is like, if I'm in a class and there's people that are going, I really want to be a voice actor and all of this, and I'm going, I don't know if you should. Maybe you love this world and you love all that. You might be the best engineer because you're better at that than you are at acting. Like, it's one of the roughest things in the world of being a parent, when your child tries to do something that they're not good at. And you have to then set them on your lap and say, honey, this ain't the best part for you. And my daughter is wonderful and beautiful and amazing and very talented at a lot of things, but she's a little tone deaf. And so she's not the best singer in the world. So I have to go, you're not going to be on American Idol anytime, honey, but I'm not trying to be mean. Like, people will go, well, that's mean, and don't quench her dreams. And it's like, no, I needed somebody to say to me, James, don't do that voice because you're not hitting it, because otherwise, I'm just going to embarrass myself, and I'm not going to. But it's like on the ones that I do. So like, people could watch my career and they could go, he does Michael J. Fox, he does Christopher Lloyd, he does Christopher Walken, he does, Jay Baruchel. He just does those same voices over and over. It's like, yeah, because those are the ones I can do and I'm really good at. But the ones that I'm not, I practice, and sometimes I get better, but sometimes I don't. And so I have to know when to go, okay, not my thing. And I think each one of us needs to know when to say it's not my thing. Now, Nabil, you have a craft and an ability and an ear and a love and a passion for voice acting, and it's coming through in what you're doing. So see, God is going to bless that, and he's going to take you on a journey. So that's the cool part. But for me, as like somebody that would be a teacher, I just don't have the heart when somebody doesn't, to be able to go, you know what? Maybe you'd be a great person in recording it, rather than voicing it, because, and in this day and age, it's very unpopular to tell people the hard truths about things too. So, that's a very long way around. And it's also, I hope people don't get upset about that. We need that brutal honesty sometimes. It's like I say on my podcast, know what you believe and why you believe it. But I also say, know more than you want to know. So what does that mean? It means sometimes I'm not going to be really good at things, and I need someone to tell me, you know what? Here's where I saw your strong points in that, but here's where I saw your weak points. So either work on it and get really good, because some people can turn it around. Like the first time I tried doing Ron Howard's voice, for example, the actor Ron Howard, the actor-director Ron Howard, I was like, I think I can get this. But the first few times it was terrible. But I worked at it and I got it. And then I ended up doubling him for things. But there's other voices. Tobey Maguire. Can't do Toby's voice. I know Toby. I've worked with him and all of that. They've had me do his voice on things before. And I go, guys, I don't sound anything like him. I can't do his voice. And I had to know when I should walk away. So having that ability to know when we're blessed at something and when we're not is really important.
Actually, I'm glad that you brought that last part up, because I remember that you had posted a video on YouTube when you were auditioning for a project that required you to sound like Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Strange.
Benedict Cumberbatch, yeah. And I
you're just like, and then you never booked it, right? You never got it?
No, I didn't book it. Somebody else booked it. And I would have, I was close, but I wasn't 100%. And, a lot of times people will get something because of who they are. Well, but we could bring in, James Arnold Taylor. That'd be fun. Hang out with Obi-Wan for the day. Yeah, but if I'm not the closest, I don't want it. And that's been the beautiful thing about voice actors for the most part. Most of us try to be really honest and go, oh, who does a great Jack Black? Mick Wingert. Hire Mick Wingert. Don't hire me. I'm just going to get close. I'm going to dance around that voice. But Mick's going to be the one that really gets it right. Or, who does a great Robert De Niro is Maurice LaMarche. Don't hire me, So it's that kind of a thing. We got to be honest with ourselves as well.
Absolutely. We don't want to keep taking too much of your time. We do have 2 more questions here, if that's okay with you.
Sure, let's do it. Yeah.
what has been an advice someone in your life has given to you that has stuck with you all this time, since the moment it was said to you, all the way up to, and actually, I'm sorry, it was said to you, right? And it stuck with you from the moment that they said it to you, and perhaps is the stepping stone to where you are now in your life and in your career today.
That's a great question. I'm going to give a kind of a curved answer here. I think what it would be is some of the first times I heard somebody say certain parts of scripture that clicked. So as I mentioned earlier, for now we see in a mirror dimly, then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. That's 1 Corinthians 13:12. And the first time I heard somebody really unpack that, it hit me, and I thought, James, you think you see everything clearly, but it's dim because we are in the midst of the journey. And we don't have the hindsight of God, and we don't have the hindsight of our own lives, years down the line. We don't have the wisdom, but we're in the thick of it. And we think we do because we are in the thick of it. So remember that God sees it from here. You're seeing it from here. And sometimes it feels like a mess, And so again, it goes back to what we've been talking about here, right? Not complaining, And so I think that was some of the most powerful stuff that really hit me is, oh yeah, I'm not in control of this. I can't control that. I have to. And in fact, the best way for me to control this is to give it up to God and let him take the reins so I can actually sit in it and kind of enjoy the ride, even the hard parts, because I know that the burden is not my own. Christ says to lay our burdens and our yokes, our heavy burdens upon him, and he will take them up. So when I first heard that, I think that really impacted me in a way that turned the light switch on. And I've tried to kind of live that. I fail miserably all the time at that, but I really try to walk that as much as I can. So, it's like even before we started a little bit late because there was some technical things I was having with the program. And so we had to come up with another way. And, of course, Shamir had said, well, you can record over there. And I thought, okay, great. But I thought, first I'm sitting there going, no, I got to figure this out, right? I got to figure out why my microphone isn't going through the thing. And then at some point you have to go, it's not, but there's another solution. And so there's always those things. And I think technology is probably the one thing that gets me more than anything right now. I don't know how you guys are, but these little devices drive me crazy. And it is so easy to get off course when they don't work, right? So I try to go, God's got this. So, yeah. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that.
Back to the family portion. I just had a kid last year with my girlfriend. His name's Malek. And my question is to you, what has been the toughest obstacle you've had as a father?
I had a question about fatherhood a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and I gave an answer that was kind of different, and I'm thinking it's probably the same answer I'm going to give here, not as a cop-out, but because I think it actually is, when I think about it, it's really the right answer. I think that the thing is I grew up not, I wasn't supposed to be, so I am the product of an affair. I am what they call illegitimate. I wasn't supposed to be. If two people did the right thing, I wouldn't be here. So I'm torn in my life in that, but I never really had a great father figure growing up. And so to be a father is the greatest gift God could have ever given me. So the toughest thing is that I actually am a father, and that it's also the greatest thing that I'm a father, because I just never could have imagined. And, my wife and I were not able to have children biologically. So we adopted our daughter from China when she was 8 months old. And she's been the most amazing gift and beautiful thing ever for our lives and our marriage, as together, we forget that she's adopted. I'll say, oh, well, you get that from my side of the family, and then, oh, wait a second. Because she is the perfect combination of my wife and myself. She really is. And it's very funny how that works. But it's tough sometimes to be a dad, because you do see the mistakes you made being played out again. And then you do see having to be that voice, like we talked about earlier, that isn't maybe the voice that anybody wants to hear, but it's the voice that comes across and says, you know what? Let's try this instead. And that is hard. I tell my daughter that a lot. I'll go like, you have no idea. I'll say, kiddo, it is the hardest thing in the world for me to have to like critique you or criticize you or say something that feels like a critique or a criticism when it's not. I'm trying to actually help you, but it comes off bad, and I sit with it for the rest of the day and into the night. And I'll say to my wife, did I do the right thing? And I'll pray to God, did I do the right thing? And God's like, lead a child up in the way, and there they shall go, And so the hardest stuff is sometimes doing the best stuff, because it hurts the most to be that honest. So long way around. I hope that's a good answer.
That's wonderful. I could tell you, James, I was incarcerated for 3 years of my life. I've been out 3 years.
Oh, God bless you.
Amen. Thank you. And all the bad things I did in the past in my criminal life and whatnot, it literally took away the feeling I had inside of feeling for other people. So when I was in prison, I asked God, I was like, Lord, when I get out, I want you to give me that feeling back, to feel for people. And to feel, when my family members around me feel for me, or they cry over me, like, hey, you should stop doing these things. So that kind of feeling, I was like, Lord, give me that back. I need to feel for people.
Yeah.
I got out, and literally a year being out, he gave me my son. And I was just like, the happiness and the feeling and everything just came back to me. Things that nothing else could give me in the world. No materialistic thing, no family member around could give me the happiness that my son gave me, and change my out view and how I see life in general. It was just a whole 180, and it's been a blessing. That's why I asked you that question too, because being a father it's got some things that are tough, some trials and tribulations, but there's a lot of blessings too that outweigh all those little things that
That's the thing. And you think about when and did you have a son? You said you have a son. So when your son does something that's really even bad or wrong or whatever, and sometimes we want to laugh, because it's still kind of cute, or it's kind of whatever, but regardless, you still want to hug them, and you want to go like, it's okay. And that's what we have to remember God does with us, because we're very critical of ourselves in that. And we will do something and not think that God's doing like you would do. But it's like Scripture says, would your own father give you a scorpion or a snake? No. So why would you expect that your heavenly Father to do any less than give you the most beautiful blessings? So what I would say is, when you can look at those moments with your little boy and you're loving on him, remember, God is loving you that same way, Shamir. He is loving you. He's forgiving you. He's lifting off all of that stuff. And that's the part that we all have to remember. And that's why, again, it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. I wish everybody believed the way I believe, because that's my thought process. But that's not because of me. That's because God wired me that way, right? As he rewired you. Why? Because you were like, God, I want to feel this again. And you don't know, I don't know if you're going to bless me with this or not, but I'm putting it up. And guess what? Boom, you got a son. Boom, there's going to be tough stuff in life, but still you're like, I am connected. That's my boy. And no matter what, I'm going to love him. And then you can always reflect back and go, and that's how God loves me. And I'm an example to my boy as to how God loves him. And so when he gets older and he's looking at life and he's having a hard time, he's going to go, but my dad would just love me. And so God is just loving me as well. So, long way around, but yeah. Yeah. God bless you. Yeah. God bless you.
All right, we before we wrap it up, James, I got to ask you, since it is May the 4th, there's some really exciting things going on, right? You've got The Phantom Menace coming out in theaters. Well, technically it came out May 3rd. So there's that. There's exclusive merchandise. And of course, there's Tales of the Empire. Have you seen that trailer?
No. I haven't seen the trailer. I haven't seen anything about it. That's the crazy part. I found out about it at a Comic-Con I was at a few weeks back. I think with Ashley, we were in South Carolina and somebody brought it up because it had just dropped, the day before. I hadn't heard anything about it. And so that's how in the loop we are, right? We signed so many NDAs and we signed so much stuff that we go, I can't talk about anything until it's out. And then we also aren't told some things too. So we're just like, everything's so secretive. So am I excited about that? As Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm not excited about it at all. But as a Star Wars fan, I'm very excited about it. But Obi-Wan isn't. No, he doesn't want to go to the dark side. We don't need to know about those people on that side, do we? But Phantom Menace, you know what I love about Phantom Menace? And the two of you grew up with prequels. What I love is the love that those films are getting now from people that grew up with them. People that understand them. Yeah, like, for Ahmed Best to be able to feel the love of fans and not feel the judgment of Jar Jar Binks, that's fantastic. I don't know. I'm sure you were there. I don't know if you remember when Ahmed came to Star Wars weekends. That was after long conversations I had with him and others of like, trust me, they're going to love you, and he was there and, you all gave him like standing ovations. And it was so great because people love it. So I think I'm probably more excited for Phantom Menace coming back. But that's also because I'm not in the Tales of the Empire. So, Barissa, I've heard about the trailer. I just haven't seen it yet. So I will go and watch it now. You guys have convinced me. I'll look at the dark side. I'll take a look.
Put the cap back on so Obi-Wan doesn't have to see it.
That's right. I'll be O.C. Sobek for a minute, and
there you go. That was good. Or Reiko Hardin, not the Obi-Wan, the actual Reiko.
Yeah, that's right. Reiko Hardin. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
No, yeah. So before we wrap it up, James, is there anything you want to plug in? We know that you have the Angel Studios, Gabriel and the Guardians coming out. Super excited for that. And then, of course, talk to us a little bit more about Hidden Blessings and things like that.
Sure. Well, I thank you. So we are, by this time, May the 4th be with you all. I would hope that my film Hidden Blessings is actually out on my Vimeo that I have to where you can buy or rent it. Because I'm getting ready to put all that together and make it to where you can actually see it there. We're still working on some distribution routes for it as well, all over the world, but it will be available worldwide on my Vimeo to where you can buy it or rent it. And then we're putting together like a special edition as well with all the little behind the scenes and, deleted scenes and all of that stuff. So that hopefully is out by now, by the time we're all... because we're time traveling right now, all the three of us, but with the magic of technology. But so, yes, but people could go to my website. They could follow my Instagram, Jat Actor, and or jamesarnoldtaylor.com and probably find information about all of it. Hopefully it's out by now. And if not, it's coming very soon. But the movie, Hidden Blessings, it was a movie that I wrote and directed and produced and shot and edited and did everything out of my home studio here. And it's a labor of love, and it's about the prodigal son, which is a parable that Christ tells. So, yeah. So I appreciate you letting me talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Anytime you need anything to promote, plug in, or whatnot, you have us here, and we've been supporting you for many, many years since 2000. Well, even farther than 2008, but you've been in plenty of cartoons and things that we grew up on. So Ratchet and Clank and all that stuff. We just thank you so much for coming on and taking a chance with us and spreading the gospel to all our viewers here and whatnot. And hopefully this will touch more people that will feel inspired, will feel blessed, and will actually take some action on whatever goals, dreams, desires they might have.
We just really want to thank you, James, for being on the podcast. Honestly, it's been a blessing. I mean, I did not think we've only been on since the end of January, beginning of February is when we started. We're already 13 shows in.
Yes.
13 weeks essentially. Yes. And honestly, I did not expect for you to be on the show anytime soon, because I know you have a busy schedule. So it's a blessing from God, because what we're trying to do is a big movement where everybody can have a positive mindset, help people that are going through mental health issues, or just spread, the gospel and have positivity and all these things. So we really appreciate you for contributing that little bit grain of sand for this podcast. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that. It's the least I can do. Your kindness through the years has been there with me. Whether I was coming out for the motorcade and waving to you and knowing that you were there, or seeing you in the audience at any of the shows, the Star Wars weekends, to through the years, the posts, the interconnections we've had on social media and through the years, all that. So I'm appreciative, because I know that nothing I do is possible without others kind of appreciating it and giving back with love about it. So I'm very grateful. So it's absolutely my pleasure. I hope and pray nothing but the best for your podcast, and and bless all the folks that are watching and listening and taking it all in, however they're consuming this podcast. I know it's various ways. So thank you so much. May the force be with you.
From Obi-Wan himself.
Yes.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. We love you guys as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes.
And it'll be until next time. Take care and have a great day.